Hey Flosstube, this is Kim, aka Spartan Stitcher on Instagram, and I'm back again with another Flosstube cross-stitching update. This is video number 59. Today is, excuse me, today is the 9th of March. Hopefully my video looks a little clearer because I'm shooting this on a brand new Samsung Galaxy S20 cell phone. I had to upgrade our phones for my husband and I a little earlier than we had planned. We both had S8s. And we were planning on getting the new S20s, which just came out last week, once he got back from his deployment. But he's having problems with charging his S8. Like, the cord has to be just right for it to accept a charge. And I've had that happen with the tablet before. And it gets to the point where eventually it just won't charge whatsoever. And knowing that it takes a week for me to get mail to him via USPS priority mail, I decided to upgrade now, and I'm mailing him his new phone today because, you know, first world problems, I don't want to rely on just email to be able to communicate with him, because we talk every single day with Facebook Messenger, and him and my daughters, you know, send bedtime messages, voice messages to each other over Messenger every day, and I don't want to lose that. So the new phone will be on its way to him today, and now I'm playing with a new phone for filming. This is already my second time filming the intro because it cut off the file at 9 minutes. It didn't even start a new file like my S8, it just stopped recording. So I changed some things. Hopefully it'll keep recording. If not, the video will be in parts. Hopefully I am a little bit clearer. The rear-facing camera on the S20 is now a 10 megapixel camera as opposed to the S8, which had an 8 megapixel. The forward-facing cameras are ridiculous. I haven't even played around with them all yet, but there's 3 different options, and they'll take super, like, I can't even describe it, incredible photos. Excuse me. So, cross-stitching for this week. I worked on 3 different pieces. I told you I was going to stitch on my Familiar for the catalog of Witch's Familiar Mystery Stitch Along by Ingleside Imaginarium. Link is below. I told you the March Familiar is Corvus, or a type of crow. They're really good at recognizing people, as real crows are. So he is carrying a scrolled up message, and you can see there's an ink bottle and a pen in the corner as well. So that's the whole piece all together so far. This is on 32 count Lugana in Murky by Picture This Plus. And there is a close-up of Corvus. He is a big guy. Because I was busy, it did take me 3 days to stitch him up this past week. But pretty cool. Still enjoying this one, and I look forward to each monthly release. Next up, I did get my page finish on Museum Shelf, Supersized Color Expansion. So I am over here in Dinosaur Corner, and I finished this page with these 2 books. And thanks to a subscriber, Chris Brown, I know that I was mistaken calling this a Nautilus shell. It is in fact an ammonite, which were sea mollusks that lived in the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods. So they look similar to a nautilus, but it is an ammonite. So I've got this page done, and you see my next page will have the mastodon, the stegosaurus in the rock, and the beginning of the T-Rex tail. So for the National Parks Challenge in Full Coverage Fanatics, I'm only at 3,200 tent stitches towards the next park, so I'm not even halfway there yet. But there you go. So now I have 2 full pages here and the partial pages because of how I'm cropping out that outer gold border. And as I said, I'll be working on the next 2 pages concurrently thanks to Pattern Keeper. So we'll get a close-up, and my new phone focuses automatically. One thing I do want to mention, I haven't been talking about it, but this is my homemade PVC frame that I made very cheaply, and it uses Q-snap clamps to secure the fabric to the frame. However, if you go look at AZ Needleworker's latest video, it was a whip parade, and I'll link that below. At the beginning, she talks about how to, a tip to avoid fabric slipping on the Obanic frames. A lot of people, myself included, were sticking an extra piece of cotton in the well with the dowel to keep the fabric from slipping. And simple solution, her idea is to take the extra fabric and sew a pocket in the bottom like a curtain rod, so you can stick the dowel from the Obanic frame through the end of the fabric like a curtain rod. So it's not attached directly, it's not like sewn onto the dowel, but the dowel just slides through it. And I want to definitely try that with my Obanic frames, but I'm also curious if I can do the same thing with my PVC frame. I don't know if I have enough fabric border to create, I guess I could always sew on more cotton fabric to create that pocket and then slip the PVC pipe through that instead of using the Q-snap clamps. So once I have a free minute, because you know, single parenting and Girl Scout cookie selling and all that, I'm looking forward to trying that. And the third piece I worked on this week, I told you I was going to start a new page on Oh Baby. This is now a retired chart from Haid. Her chart's retired the middle of February, and I am cropping off 150 from the left side. So you'll only see this part, and I am right here on this side of his face. I think I did about 2,600 tent stitches so far, because I have worked on it today already. And you can already tell that's where his eye's going to be. You can see the negative space where the gleam in his eye will be. Looks pretty cool. I've already finished 3 colors on this page, and I'm working on the 4th. And I did that alternate gridding that I talked about in Friends Forever, and it's working just fine for me. So there's that page, and there you go. Now you can see all that white. I already had that done. When I did this page, because the white was on both pages, when I stitched this page, I just went ahead and I did all of that white, which is actually 38.65. So that was already on the page. All I did were the darker colors. So I will keep going with that one for the National Parks Challenge. In Full Coverage Fanatics, let's see. And for the Leap Day sale with Haid, I told you I was probably going to buy A Pirate's Life for Me with the Pirate Hyacinth. I changed my mind. I bought a different chart instead. I decided to buy Contessa with Squid, which is a piece I've always liked. And then I've seen Michelle Bendy has stitched a few pages of it, and there's other people that are working on it. So that's the chart that I bought. No idea if and when I ever plan to stitch it, but at 54% off, why not? So for plans this week, I'm going to keep going. Probably more on Museum Shelf, definitely more on Oh Baby. I'm probably going to also do more work on Templar Prophecy by Long Dog Samplers. Ann P. of Fiber, Floss, and Fiction podcast and I were talking, and she started the Pilgrim this year, and neither one of us have been happy with the amount of attention we've been able to give to our long dog pieces, so we've decided to, at a minimum, stitch at least one day a month on our long dog samplers. And so I'm going to give it at least 1 day's worth of stitching, but thinking about it, I might also just make it where I do like a couple strands every day for the week, and that would be the equivalent of more than a day of stitching. So we'll see. I've got a busy week. Here in our school district in North Dakota, instead of a week of spring break, the kids get 2 4-day weekends. They get a 4-day weekend in March and a 4-day weekend whenever Easter happens to be, which is April this year. So my girls have no school on Thursday and Friday, and we're still selling Girl Scout cookies, still working cookie booths every weekend. So I'm busy with that. Busy with other things. My cousin's baby that had the open heart surgery when she was like a week old in October. The baby is now 5 months old, doing very well, but is going in tomorrow for her second open heart surgery. They're going to take out the plastic stent, and now that she's big enough, she's grown, they're going to be using her own tissue to rebuild parts of her heart and the arteries and veins coming out of it. So that big surgery is tomorrow. Again, thanks to the University of Michigan for having an extraordinary pediatric hospital there in Ann Arbor. And I say that with my Michigan State shirt on because Michigan State just won the Big Ten championship for basketball. Let's see, what else? My horse was supposed to go to a show this upcoming weekend, but now I highly doubt that he's going to be able to attend because there's another horse at my friend's barn that is very ill. We haven't confirmed yet, but they're thinking it's equine influenza, which the show horses do receive a vaccination for. But of course, you know, our flu shots are not always perfect, and we can still contract the flu. So yesterday, this other horse had a temperature of 109, which is like organs shutting down. A horse's regular temperature is right around 100 degrees. So he's quarantined from the rest of the horses, but this is one of those viruses that the state starts to get involved in. So I don't think Spencer will be able to leave the premises to go to a show where he could potentially expose other horses to the virus. So hopefully I can get my money back for that show. Usually if you have to scratch due to medical reasons, a note from the vet will give you, at least for the schooling shows that she attends, will give you a refund. So, but Spencer himself is doing fine. He's had a good winter, and they're progressing in their dressage training. So, other notes, I didn't go back and look at all my videos because, again, there's 58 of them. But at some point last year, one of my viewers recommended the book Skyward by Brandon Sanderson for me because I'm an Air Force chick. You know, I like everything airplanes, and they recommended the book to me, and I didn't get to it right away, but I did read it last week. Loved it. Read it in 2 days. Just flew through it. And this morning I downloaded from the library the second book of the series, the second of 2 books in the series, so I'm looking forward to starting that one. So thank you to whoever recommended Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. It is a young adult science fiction. So it's not as ponderous a tome as, say, his Way of Kings series, which I have read The Way of Kings, and I plan on reading more in that series, but they are huge and tend to be harder to get through. But because Skyward is young adult science fiction, it was a much easier read, and I just flew through it, so I loved it. So thank you to whoever that person was. All right. Time for an Air Force story. This week, we are going to talk about PDM, Programmed Depot Maintenance. Almost every airframe in the Air Force goes through PDM, which is a very in-depth inspection, and pretty much they tear apart the airplane. They disassemble it and do really in-depth inspections and fix things up structurally, and then put it all back together, and it goes and flies. For the F-15, all models A through E, PDM is done every 6 years. There are 3 different bases in the Air Force that do PDMs, or 3 different depot bases. There's Hill Air Force Base in Utah, Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City, and Warner Robins in the middle of Georgia. And so Robins is the base that handles all F-15 models. So when I was stationed at Seymour Johnson in North Carolina, each squadron had 1 to 2 airplanes constantly at PDM, at depot. And the depot duration is about 4 months. So a jet would fly down there and would be down there for 4 months, would come back, and we'd send another jet. And of course, it's all by flying hours too. On base at Seymour, we would do a phase inspections, which is done every 200 flight hours. So that's not as in depth as depot, but so you do different levels of phase, and then every 6 years it reaches the point where it needs the depot level maintenance. So when a plane gets to, or when an F-15 gets to Robins for PDM, the first thing they do is they do a functional test while it's still on the flight line, make sure everything's working, and then they remove all the fuel. So they suck all the fuel out of the airplane. They remove the engines, and then they take it to the paint barn and they sandblast it and remove all the paint off the airplane, so you can see the bare metal of all the fuselage, wings, every flight surface of the airplane. And then they remove the panels and the wings off the F-15 because it's done with a dock series. So instead of one gigantic building, you have a bunch of different hangars, and each plane, like an assembly line, it has certain things done at spot 1, and then it moves over to spot 2, and spot 3, spot 4. Eventually, so they tear it apart, inspect it, eventually put it back together. And while they're doing that to the fuselage, the main part of the airplane, they're also doing that in another building with the wings. So they're both inspected concurrently, and then they're put back together. And I have pictures because I was able to tour Robins depot. So first off, here's a picture of a C model F-15. I'm not sure if this is before it started depot or right after it's been put back together. But here's what an F-15 looks like with no paint. Actually, I'm looking at this now. This is probably after the depot, before they repainted it, because the canopy is covered up like it's going to the paint barn. So you can see all different colors because different flight surfaces are made of different material. Not every flight surface is actually metal, like the speed brake you see up here, and the leading edge of the stabs is a different green. That's not metal. That's a different type of material. So that's what an F-15 looks like without any paint on it. And so here is, depending on what they're doing in each dock, you have different kinds of stands and scaffolding and things where people can get around the airplanes. So here you see the tail section of one of the Seymour jets. So the plane is towed or pushed backwards very carefully to fit around this scaffolding framework, so people can climb up and access different parts of the airplane. There's a rear view, so you're looking through the empty engine bays where the engines would be on the airplane. Here's a couple. Okay, so depot level maintenance is done by civilians. It's not done by uniformed aircraft maintainers. These are civilians who have government jobs and, live outside the base. So there's two guys, working on one of our jets. So this picture was taken from that scaffolding, and you can see there's the cockpit of the plane. So they've got all kinds of panels open. We're working at different things, looking at wiring, looking at structural parts of the airplane. Here's a different airplane, same setup, same kind of dock. And you see they have all their toolboxes real close. And they're working on aircraft 501 there. Let's see. My pictures aren't in order, so. Okay, here's a different airplane. This is also a Seymour jet. So you can see these are panels that we open up all the time at Seymour to pull different avionics units. And then if you look here, you can see the wing is off. And I have another picture to give you a close-up. But the canopy's been taken off. The seats are out. So they're working on it. And so here's the wing joint. Inside of the wing joint when the wing is off. You can see that's the main attachment points are right here. It's not a hefty as, and this, there's more, there's another one up here that you can't see as well because of the stand that's in the way. So there's at least 4 attachment points there for the wing to attach to the airplane. And here's a zoomed out view of that same plane without the wing on. And you can see they have different, instead of that, these are different types of stands. Instead of that scaffolding, they have portable stands pulled up to that airplane. Just a view of one of their boards where they keep track of what's going on. So IW would be in work, CW would be complied with. Same shorthand we used at Seymour. And then here's the front view of the plane when it's in that scaffolding. You pretty much, you can't see it because there's stands all over it so people can access it. But here you can see the radome, the nose cone is off the airplane, and that red thing is the radar with a protective covering over it so nobody gets hurt. Because as I showed you in the in that crash pictures, there is some dangerous materials in there, and then of course because it's radar, you don't want to be exposed to all that. So those are the pictures I have. That is Robin's PDM. I have also toured Tinker in Oklahoma City. More of the larger airplanes are worked on there. And that's more what you think of like World War II, where they had these really long buildings where they'd assemble airplanes. Tinker has some buildings so huge and so long that the civilian employees get around the building on bicycles inside the building. So they have all kinds of bicycles, you know, more the easy rider type bicycles. They have baskets so you can carry stuff with you. And yeah, the building is so huge they travel around by bicycle to get from different points. So that is your Air Force story for the day. I hope everybody has a good stitching week. And let me make sure I got nothing else to talk about. Yep, that's it. All right, guys. Have a good week. Bye.